People ask me a lot of questions as an author. A majority of the time, it's not about me at all, which I'm fine with. A lot of people's questions can all be boiled down into one singular thing. How the hell do you write a book? People want to know, how do I publish? How do I actually finish the book? Or how I even just plain write it and get the ideas for it in general. Recently, I've been trying to stream the process on Twitch for the very first time. Is very nerve-wracking because I'm not used to showing anybody behind the scenes. But part of my goals for this upcoming year is that I really want to share more of this process with you. And it suddenly struck me like, wait a minute, why don't I literally take you along the entire journey of starting a new book all the way through finishing it, editing it, doing the cover art and the interior work for it, and even publishing it and marketing it. So that's exactly what we're going to do, and I'm very afraid. I want to title this series, Let's Make a Book Baby. I feel like that's really tough, but it's supposed to be like the book is a baby. It could also be like I'm calling you baby, but that's kind of weird. But it's because these are about fated mates, and I think that that's kind of cute, right? Romance themed. Tell me what you think. Should I retitle the series? The video series. I'm gonna take you on a month-long journey. Who knows how long it's actually going to be, but every single Monday or Tuesday, because let's be honest, I need some wiggle room, I will update you on how the previous week has gone with the writing process of this new book that I'm just starting now. If you don't know me, my name's River Kai. I'm an LGBTQ plus author and artist. I'm also disabled, so I love to write about trauma survivors who are finding true love for the first time, and usually they are in the LGBTQ plus community and have some type of mental or physical health condition that impacts the book, and also showcases characters that I wish I had in books growing up, since I can relate to that. I primarily focus on romance genres, and this book in particular that I want to write with you is going to be a paranormal romance book set in a universe that I have already started writing in the past with my Shy Alpha series. But before I give away too much about what it is, disclaimer, there's a lot of things that go wrong when writing a book or finishing a big project that's creative like this. Number one, I scrap my books sometimes. I made videos about this. I literally told people on Twitch last week before I started this one, like, hey, sorry, I scrapped my last book I just started with you. And that's kind of what got me inspired about this. I also might work on multiple books at once. I can always tell you about that process. I don't really know how we're going to navigate this because I've never done this before either. So we can discuss this as things move along. Another thing is that I might say absolutely conflicting things about how I feel about the book, having different emotions about the book that might not seem like they match up with previous weeks. But this is because writing something as extensive as this, no matter if it's fiction or not, ends up being like surprisingly a highly emotional experience. And so sometimes I will go up and down in how I'm feeling about the book depending on how characters feel, on my personal relationship with parts of the book, which I may or may not share. And it might seem a little confusing, but honestly it happens literally every time. I can't control it. The other thing is just very basic stuff that I don't think a lot of people realize happens when you're writing a book. So the names of characters absolutely will change. Might be confusing, so if that happens, I will remind you every time who is who. I also might give way more spoilers about this than I ever have before. If I'm actually taking you along the journey with me, I'm gonna have to tell you everything that I'm plotting, and there's only so much that I can keep vague without feeling like I'm inhibiting you from understanding the experience. It's kind of a fine line that I'm gonna try to balance the best I can. I'm pretty good at it in live streams, but I can't make any promises that there will be no spoilers. If anything, I will give a warning if it's a big spoiler beforehand, and you can skip to wherever it ends. I'll put timestamps in the video. And finally, I will, because this is what the type of writer I am, I will delete entire sections of this book. I will rewrite entire sections, maybe sections that you and I both really like. I promise though that it will be for the greater good of the book, and whatever it's replaced with will actually probably be better. That's what I tend to find. It works so much better this way if I can just let things go sometimes and restart it. It's kind of like you're getting to see alternate universes of what could have happened in the book, but then it doesn't. Okay, all that being said, let's get into what this book is about. So this book, as I mentioned, is going to be a paranormal romance. It's a werewolf book set in the same universe as my Shy Alpha series, which is right here. In this universe, there are werewolves, but they're called lycans because they can shapeshift into wolves at will. And they're bigger than your average actual wolf. They have this side of themselves that is in the back of their head, like their wolf form. For these characters, I want to mention that because I'm going to amplify it a lot compared to Aaliyah's perspective. In the My Shy Alpha series, Aaliyah was the main character and we followed her point of view throughout all 3 books. She turned out to be a hybrid lycan, so she had both human and lycan in her, and she didn't know that she even had any lycan attributes within her at all, so she never realized she could shapeshift until the beginning of book 1. So she has like a lot to learn. But in this book that we're going to be writing together, I wanted to base it around Ari. If you don't know who Ari is, that's totally okay because probably not very many people do yet. He is the first child that Noah and Aaliyah have at the very end of the series. We only see him in the epilogue. I mean, technically he's present because she is pregnant with him in the series at one point. By the time we reach the epilogue, he has already told his parents that he feels like he is a boy. So he's going to be a trans main character. It kind of follows the Omega verse. So there's going to be Alpha, Beta, and Omega werewolves, which, by the way, I love this theme, okay? Trust me on that. I also think it's really funny. So some of these things, like, I might think it's funny and you're like, why is that funny? But it's funny to me, okay? Just letting you know. So he is an Omega through and through, pure Omega. But he's an absolute badass. His wolf form that he can shapeshift into is fearsome beyond belief. He just has so many doubts about himself. I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself. That's the aspect of him that I wanted to show going into this. On the other hand, we have Marcus. Marcus is a character who we also met in book 3 of the My Shy Alpha series, except he was a baby. Marcus's parents were in book 3 as allies to Greenfield Pack, so that is the main pack that Ari is still going to be in within this book. When Aaliyah and Noah were visiting Marcus's parents in Sweden, that's where they got to meet Marcus as a little baby. He is just this very chill Omega werewolf already. His presence is even very comforting to Aaliyah while she's feeling sick because she's pregnant, and at one point she's kind of wondering if he's going to have some type of connection with Ari, who she doesn't know Ari's name yet because they didn't choose it yet, but like she can sense almost that they have some type of interaction even though her baby hasn't been born yet, so she's like, this is really weird. But since they are in Sweden and Greenfield Pack, where Aaliyah, Noah, and Ari and their whole family is all the way in Oregon in the United States, obviously they have that huge distance between one another, so they will have known each other throughout their childhood, but they won't have had a lot of opportunities to meet each other in person for long periods of time. This is where some spoilers are going to come in, but I honestly don't think this is going to be very surprising because this series, the main conflict is going to be sort of a will they, won't they with fated mates. My idea originally that I had for this book that interested me a lot is, what if you grew up with someone and you knew them so long that you didn't know how special they were to you? Whether Ari and Marcus take their connection for granted or they're just so used to each other, they just don't see how deep of a connection they might have. They don't know if they actually are fated mates or not, and they don't really think to question it out loud because they don't want to ruin what they have, because admittedly it is something something special to them. So there's a lot of different conflicts here that come into play, and I have a few different ideas of how I want the book to go. Now that I've kind of introduced this story to you, I'm gonna get into what I have to start thinking about when I'm first planning a book, which is what the main conflicts are and how I'm going to try to express that. And very quickly, this has devolved because honestly, every experience of writing a book is different, and I do a lot better if I am what's called a pantser writer, which means you just fly by the seat of your pants. I believe that's where it comes from. And you don't plan ahead, really. Like, I don't sit there and plot the whole book because I find that actually to be extremely limiting for me, counterintuitive to my creativity. So if I do that, it actually sometimes makes things a lot worse. I'm actually running into that with another book that I have finished right now. So I'm going to try to take a more pantser approach to that one to try to solve that one too. But even still, I kind of like to at least know, like, okay, what's going to be the main issue here, and maybe even how a book ends. Luckily for you, I don't have to spoil how the book ends because I don't know. Every time I've tried to plan it, these characters have already changed their mind and not allowed me to do what I wanted. This has been a really weird first week of writing a book. To catch you up to speed, what happened this past week is I was like, you know what, I think I get it. I think I have an idea finally for these characters because I've had them in the back of my mind for a long time. Originally for Ari, I wanted him to have a totally separate story, and I think what kind of stopped me before I realized this week was as I started writing his story, I was like, whoa, he's taking over on his own, beyond my control. I literally tried to write him with a different personality, and he was like, no. I don't know how else to explain that. If you haven't written a fictional book before, this can really happen sometimes where I'll be like, okay, I want these characters to do this, and then I put them in the scene, and they're like, we would never do that. And I'm like, oh. Okay, I probably sound crazy, but I swear this happens like for a lot of fiction authors, including me, where things get derailed once you put a character into a scene. And for some reason, as I was starting to write Ari, I was like, that doesn't make sense for him. My original idea for his personality didn't make sense. But as I started just letting myself tell his perspective in this first chapter, literally not knowing what to write, that was very scary. And I did it on stream, which was also extra scary. But I was like, wait, okay, he has this attribute about him where he's kind of reserved on the outside, like his dad. It's just not in the way that I expected at all. I think he has a little bit more fire to him, but he doesn't have the same like light-hearted preschool teacher vibes that Aaliyah has. Like, what would be the word for it? It's almost hard for me to describe because honestly, I wasn't expecting him to turn out like this. I started writing him, and as soon as one of his childhood friends showed up, I was like, okay, no, these two are actually like playfully sassy with each other, which I did not expect at all. I was imagining Ari originally to be pretty quiet and shy, maybe a little bit anxious, but I think the actual way that his anxiety is showing up is just that he feels like he's not good enough to live up to these expectations that he's built up within himself to try to fill the shoes of his parents, which are pretty massive, huge shoes to fill. So I feel like the way that Noah and Aaliyah probably raised him still granted him a lot of confidence, and it's more of just a personality thing where he is just hard on himself. He's just one of those people where he's unsatisfied unless he's doing 100%, and maybe that's because he has a little bit of OCD traits without having the full level of symptoms to where you would actually get diagnosed with OCD, because his mom has given him and passed down those tools on how to view life in a way where OCD can't grab hold as strongly. So I have found that very interesting. The other issue that I'm going to be very real about throughout this series is that I have chronic illnesses. This week in particular, I was so painfully fatigued. I even had an allergic reaction to a food, which sometimes I get. I don't get anaphylaxis or anything, but I have a lot of digestive issues. It really takes an impact on my heart and my ability to absorb nutrients. So it exhausts me beyond belief and it makes me feel pretty terrible in general. So obviously by that point it becomes a lot harder to write. A lot of times I'll be writing in my bed and things, but this week I was like, okay, I think I'll just keep Ari's story in the back of my mind and see what happens. Because originally my whole idea was that there would be a conflict between Ari and Marcus, because Marcus is, like I said, chill, but as he grows up, he's just like one of those people where you're like, wow, like this, nothing phases this person. But he's also just very sweet. He's just like gentle to the point where when things happen, he just kind of has like minimal reactions to things, because his core belief as a person is like, it's all gonna turn out okay. Like, I don't know how, but it'll be fine, I'm sure of it, type of thing. So Ari and him, I think, will have a little bit of mismatching perspectives on things, where Ari's like, I need to solve this, like I need to figure this out, I want to do a good job. And then Marcus is like, oh, we'll figure it out. And so like, I think that'll be really fun to mess around with when they're interacting together. So I'm slowly working myself towards the point where they actually will meet each other on page. Obviously they already know each other, it's just that we haven't seen them interact in person yet. I'm almost to that point where they're going to start interacting, so I'm getting kind of excited. But that's going to be for next week. It's just that already I can tell that the main plot line that I started to develop in my head is dissipating into the ethers. And so I'm going to have to continue reworking kind of the B plots where there's like werewolf politics, I guess you would say, but honestly, they're not really politics. It's more of just like, Ari's going to try to become the leader of Greenfield Pack, which has grown even more since the My Shy Alpha series. And so he is understandably overwhelmed, probably overworking himself. He's gonna have to really get past that and learn how to find a balance before he fills in those shoes. But I think I want to give him a chance to do that on page. So I'm very interested to see how this all will go. So with the two of them being like that, the other issue is that once they are in a room together, they've just known each other for so long that they don't really understand what their connection really means, and it's a little bit more complicated once it gets into another aspect of the book, which is that Ari is supposed to have very extreme heat cycles. So I wanted him to have a type of fictional disability or chronic illness that mirrors endometriosis, but like werewolf version. So instead of what you would imagine in Omegaverse, the classic heats are they just get really horny, like a cat, you know, which is really funny and wild, and it kind of making my face red right now. But basically, I wanted Ari to be different, to where everyone else has that experience where if they mated with someone, it would solve that issue because they would take care of it, you know what I mean? But for Ari, he's in so much pain that it just overrides all other feelings. So basically he has a horrible, awful time every single month, and it's just really weighing him down, and he feels like a burden to other people, which a lot of people with chronic illnesses, myself included, struggle with feeling like. So I think it would be nice to keep debunking that for him and me and anybody else reading who can relate to that's experiencing a lot of chronic pain. I wanted Marcus to come over from overseas because he is supposed to be more of a diplomat. He doesn't really plan to lead his parents' pack. He's very sociable and calm, so he's a great mediator. So they use him more in that way to develop positive relations with different packs across the world, and he's really good at it. So I thought that would be kind of the fated aspect, where if he did end up wanting to be with Ari, if Ari is going to be the leader of Greenfield Pack, Marcus would be okay moving and doing whatever he needs to wherever Ari is, if that makes sense. But it will be very interesting to navigate that. I don't know how much that's going to change. So far, that is what I'm working with. I had more plans about possibly what shenanigans they might get into throughout the book, but I feel like it's rapidly changing, first of all, so maybe I will tell you more of my thoughts on that the next week, because it's going to be some big spoilers where I'm kind of plotting a very general idea in my head, but it might want to happen for them, but I haven't really settled on it enough to where I do feel like that's a this week thing to update you on next Monday or Tuesday. I hope this was interesting for you. It's fun for me to talk about. I feel like actually through filming this, it's been kind of cathartic being able to share my thoughts. And maybe it'll be cool to document this too. See how it goes. If you would like to start writing your own book, making your own book baby throughout this process, please tell me in the comments. It would be very fun to write indirectly together. And I'm curious about what your thoughts are on this experience. So I will see you very soon. Just as an update, I usually still live stream 1 to 4 times per week. So if you want more frequent updates on how the book writing is going, I'm going to be sharing that also every time I do a Twitch stream. Basically, I just give everyone a little update on how things are going. Some of those streams will also be co-writing streams. So yeah, if you do decide to work on a creative project through the same time period as I do, you can come literally write it live with me on Twitch. Otherwise, I will see you the next time I post a video. I'm going to be hopefully posting 1 to 2 times a week on YouTube. In that case, you will see me Monday or Tuesday with this type of update on how the book baby is coming along. Or on Friday or Saturday, where I will be doing more of a fun bookish related video, whether it's to do with telling you how I write my romance books or how I draw comics, when I almost canceled myself by saying that I had some least favorite tropes that a lot of people really like. That was the time. Okay, I'll see you next week. Goodbye for now. Oh no, I can't reach it. It looked like I just sent you a kiss. Okay, bye.